Hey everybody, certainly glad you could join me today. Welcome to episode 3 of our Let's Code Season 2. In this episode we're going to finish off defining our classes. So if you remember correctly, in the previous episode we set up our class for the place and for the people. And the last thing left for us to do is to set up the classes for the clickable items in the game. So what we're going to do after our character class is we're going to create a new class and we'll just call this one clicky, and it's going to inherit from object again, and we'll go straight in and define our initialization, and we need self. Now what we want in this class is obviously we need the name of the object, and we're just going to create space there, lovely job. And we also need our code-friendly name, so the F name there. The next thing we want to do is give it a location, and we're going to set these objects to have a click type, so click type, and an is active, is active flag. And last but not least, we're going to put a tooltip on these as well, so that we can put some important information on the screen if we need to. So I can just call that one tip. Self name equals name, self df name equals f name. Self.location equals location. Self.click. Oh, we'll have no, we won't. We will have a big type there. Self.is active equals is active, and self.tip equals tip, like so. So just to explain what each one of these is, then obviously if you remember from the previous episode, we obviously need to give it a name. This is what the this is what the player is going to see. The CF name is the code-friendly name that we can use to derive our file names from. The location is obviously the location of the room that we're in. Click type is so that if we have different types of objects, then we can click on them and it will return that. If it is active flag is just simply if the object is displayed on the screen or not. And then tip is the tooltip that we're going to get when we hover our mouse over that object. So there we go. So now we can define a new property. So here we go with our property decorator again, and we're going to define, and this time we're just going to define the image property. And we're going to go self in there. Job done there. And then what we need to do is say output equals. So first thing we want to do is use our code-friendly name. So self.df name. And then we want to have our location. Self.location, so bear with me, plus self.location, and we're going to want to put an underscore in there as well, like that. And we also need to put our file path front, so we're going to say images, and we're just going to put this into clickies, there we go, so, and then that will create our file path. So we're going to go into images clickies, and we're going to load, it's going to have the object's code-friendly name underscore its location, and then last but not least we simply need to put the file extension, and because these are going to have transparency as well, we need to put .png in there, and then all we have to do is type return output like that, save that, and now when we call for the image, we'll get hopefully the correct image loaded. Now obviously we haven't yet got the images set up for this, so we can't really test that, but what you will need to do is choose your background images for your place, have that displayed on the screen, and then when we set up our screens to display the objects and the characters, then we will have to reference images. So you'll need to have some images ready to go for that. So for example, have an image of a bedroom, have things like images for books and beds, furniture, other such things that you want to have interactable in the game. And there we have our setup. All we need to do now is create a list of clickies. So we are going to say, we'll spell it differently, clickies equals a list. Put a space in there so that we keep that separate from our other things. And then we can just simply say clickies.append, and then we'll put clicky inside it. And then we just need to give it its properties. So string name, we'll just go with a book for now for the sake of simplicity. And then code friendly name is just going to be lowercase book, or we could put book 01 there like that, so that if we have more than one book, we've got a number of them that we can have without them all referencing the same image file. Location, I think we'll just put bank here. That needs to be a string as well, like that. And then we need the click type. So click type is a string as well, and we're just going to say that's an object, like so. Is active, we're going to say true. And then we can have a tooltip, and we're just going to say a green book, like that. It doesn't matter if it's green or not, that's just the tooltip that we're going to use. We can always change it afterwards if we so choose. Now, we can do this as many times as we want. We can just keep appending images. So anytime that you get an object that you want to add to the game, just simply add another clicky to our list of clickies. They don't have to be in any specific order, which is very handy. They just need to make sure that you have the properties set up correctly, and then you can add as many as you want. It's going to go through, when we set up our screen, it's going to go through the entire list, pull out all of the objects that are in the current location and display them on the screen. So you don't have to do all of the ones in the bank in one block, all of the ones in the next space so you can. There's no reason why you can't do it that way, and sometimes that can be very useful to keep you to keep the player and keep the code organized, but it doesn't have to be that way. So that's all of our classes set up and ready to go, which is a great start. And we can always run the code and check that it works again to make sure that there's no errors. But essentially that's everything we need in terms of classes for the time being. So the next thing we want to do inside our script is we're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call this one screens. And we're just going to drop that in there. Now we're going to copy our screens.rpy into there, and we're going to delete the screens.rpyc. We don't need it. It's just the compiled version of the file, but since we're going to have to recompile anyway, it doesn't really matter. So now that we've got that file inside that folder, we're going to create a new file, and we're going to call this one main UI.rpy, like that. And then that just gives us a folder to compile our main UI for the game, because obviously there's going to be a lot of things that we need to put on the screen, but we don't necessarily want to put them all in the same file. So this one, we're just going to declare it as a screen. This one's going to be the main_UI, like that. And then we're just going to put some random thing in the background. And we're just going to say use, like this, bg_image. So now we need to create a screen called bg image. So we're going to go to screens again, new file, call this bg_image.rpy, like that. So we're going to define this screen bg_image.rpy. I don't need the RPY site, silly me. Having a brain fart there. Perfect. Okay. So what this screen is going to do is, all this screen is going to do is put an image in the background. Sounds simple, right? theoretically, we could just put the code for that inside the main UI. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a little bit of code here that will present us with the correct background image. So all we need to do is we're going to say for q in locations, if q.name equals location, and we're going to say add q dot, and then we're just going to go back to our classes file, come up to the top where we've declared our there, and all we need to do is select that q.bg image. Simple, and we don't need to do anything else. But what we can now do is we can actually input some code into here to check if this image is actually loadable, and if not, provide us with a default file to load. So we're going to come back into our classes here, and while we've got this file path, what we can actually do is say if ren'py.loadable, like that, and then we can just put file path in there, return file path, and then we're going to say else return, and then we're just going to put a file path in there, images / places / backgrounds, and we're just going to say default.jpg, like that. So what we've done here is now we've created a bit of code that's going to stop us from getting an exception if the file doesn't exist. So our method now checks whether or not this is actually a legitimate image file, if it's loadable by Ren'Py. If it's not, then it's going to load default.jpg instead, which means that saved us from one error if we foolishly forget to put an image in the correct folder or something like that. It's not going to crash the game, it's just going to show a default placeholder image instead, which is perfect. So we come back into our BG image there, and that's all we need for that really. It's just going to show the image on the screen. All of our images are going to be 1080p, so we don't need to do any resizing or any funky business. It's just going to put that image on the screen. End of chat. And we know that it's going to put a image on the screen, so we don't need to put any kind of error catching code in here. It's just that simple. So that's that background image screen complete. So we're going to save everything that we've done so far, and now we're going to quickly pause this video if you haven't done so already and get images for the different locations. Make sure they're all 1080p so that we don't have any wacky business going on, and then you can put those into the folder, and they should be able to we should be able to set up some code to show those images. So pause the video and sort yourself out with that now. So here we have our images. We've got an image for every location, and we've also got the default one, and you'll notice that I have named them all in accordance with our classes code friendly names, so it will be looking for those. And notice that it's in the location images, places, backgrounds, which corresponds to our file path. So theoretically that should be able to work. We just need to put some code into our scripts now to be able to display those images. So that's what we're going to do now. So we jump into our scripts.rpy, and we're just going to remove all of the bump that we don't need. So we're going to get rid of all of that, and we're going to get rid of all of that. And all we're going to do is we're going to say menu, and we're going to say choose, we need to put text in there, so choose your location like so. And then we're going to have our options, so we're going to say bank, and then we're going to say location. We need to put a £sign there, or a $sign. £sign is different in the UK. Location equals bank, like that. And we're actually going to go to copy paste that. Copy, and we don't need to do that, silly me. We need to make sure that we paste all of these in the correct place. So we've got bank. Now we need gas station, spell that correctly. We don't want to go to a gas station unless we're playing Minecraft. So let's say gas station, hotel. Next one is going to be home. Make sure that it's spelled correctly. And we're going to go with my garden. Say garden. Location equals garden. Obviously, this isn't going to be the code that we're going to use in the end, but this is just to test the stuff that we've currently got in. And then all we're going to do is we're going to add another copy of garden, and we're going to spell this incorrectly. So theoretically that should then display the default, because that doesn't exist. So we need to come back into our classes, because I've just realized something else that we need to do. And we need to say in our BG image it goes through, and if it matches a location then it does that. And we're actually going to change a couple of lines of code in here. So we're going to create a new variable, and we're just going to say background there equals, and we're going to copy from our classes the default file path there, and we're going to pop that into there like this, and you'll see why momentarily. And then we're going to take this out here, pop that there, gonna just copy this, that, and we're gonna pop that in there like that, and then we're going to pop that in there. Then we're going to say add background. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because in the case like this where I've spelled that incorrectly, it's not going to match up with any of our classes, meaning that it's going to go through this whole process of trying to find a location that matches this name, and it's not going to find anything, so it's not going to return the default in that case. So what we're doing now is we're still checking to make sure that we have an image named after the location we're looking for, but in the case of us looking for the incorrectly spelled location, or a location that doesn't exist, we still need the game to access the default image. So that's what we've done. We've written this little bit of change in our code, and this makes sure that it will still display something if nothing is returned from here. So that's what we've got there. So we're just making sure that there is something to put on the screen, like so. So now we need to actually display this image on the screen, and all we're going to do is, for the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to copy the main UI name, and in our screens.rpy file, we're actually going to find our choice screen. So we've got say screen, that's the dialog screen. You're going to keep coming down, that's the input screen when you ask the user to put something in, text in, and here is the choice screen. So all we're going to do at the very beginning of this, we're just going to type in use main UI, and that should then show us our background image. So jumping back into our label start, we now just need to put this into a loop. So we're just going to say playing true while playing. That needs to be a small w, and then we can just simply tab that in, save it, and then when we run our game, you can see we've got our background image there. If I choose to go to the gas station, it changes to the gas station, the hotel. So there's obviously no file called hotel, home, garden. So we actually have some misspelled names there, so we can drag that out of the way momentarily. And we can have a look in our classes, go to our locations, And what we've actually got in this case is that the script that we've written doesn't put in the correct text in the text field. So we will copy that, go into there. So we need to put that in there, like so. Then we want to come back into our classes, and where it says garden, it's actually my garden. So we'll that, and we'll paste that in there. And when it says my home, that's correct. Gas station is correct. Bank is correct. So we've actually proven that the whole system works by putting in the wrong values in our return. So now when we run our game, it will do everything correctly. Come up to here, we've got the bank, gas station, we've got the hotel, home, we've got garden, and then when we put the wrong value deliberately in there, that gives us our default background. So that's proven that that part of the game works. So now we can move on, and we're going to do that in the next episode. So let me know what you think in the comments below, guys. I hope you've got on with this. Get some images together for your backgrounds, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care of yourselves, guys. Bye bye.